On the south bank of the Cape Fear River in North Carolina is the remains of the colonial town of Brunswick. All that remains today are the walls of St. Philip's Church, built between 1754 and 1786, the foundations of the colonial structures, and the remains of the Civil War Fort Anderson. Established in 1726, Brunswick, for the next 50 years, was the principal port and political hub of the colony of North Carolina. From its wharves, the colonists shipped to Britain and other British American colonies lumber, naval stores, tobacco, rice, and other agricultural products, furs and hides, and to a lesser extent indigo. The town grew rapidly and prospered. The site of Brunswick Town and Fort Anderson belongs to and is administered by the state of North Carolina. There's a visitor center which features displays and an audiovisual program about the colonial period of Brunswick Town and Fort Anderson. Outdoor trails lead past the exhibit's excavated ruins of the fort and the town. A tour of the site begins at St. Philip's Church. And proceeds along the walk which cuts through the old earthworks of Fort Anderson. Past the fort, we enter into the remains of Brunswick. Some of the structures have been excavated. This is what the building may have looked like. Other structures are just protected. Brunswick Town has to be one of the most picturesque areas or ghost towns that I've had the opportunity to visit. War came to Brunswick Town in 1748 when the town was attacked by Spanish privateers aboard 2 ships. The residents fled into the woods for safety. The Spaniards entered the town without resistance and began the process of looting the abandoned businesses, homes, and ships. The next day, a force of 67 armed men was organized to take back the town. In the ensuing fight, 10 Spaniards were killed and 30 captured. Remaining Spaniards retreated to their ships. As the Spanish retreated, one of the ships blew up, killing most of the crew. The crew of the second ship surrendered on the condition that they could leave. Only one of the town's relief force was killed in the fight. Goods from the ships were salvaged and returned to owners or sold. The funds from the sale were used to build St. Philip's Church. In the Visitors Center is a cannon which was recovered from the Cape Fear River in the 1980s. It is believed to be one of the guns from the Spanish ships that attacked the town. For the next 15 years or so, the town continued to do well. In 1765, the British Parliament passed the Stamp Act. The citizens of Brunswick Town were some of the earliest opponents of this act. Citizens refused to allow the stamps to be offloaded. In February of the next year, citizens arrested the town's royal officials and placed the governor under house arrest. At the time, the royal governor was living in Brunswick Town. By 1770, Brunswick Town began to decline. First, in 1771, the royal governor, William Tyrone, moved the capital to New Bern, North Carolina, where he had built an impressive residence. Second, the city of Wilmington, a few miles up the Cape Fear River, began to rival Brunswick Town in commercial importance. Third was the American Revolution. In the spring of 1776, a British raiding party attacked the town and burned most of its buildings, including St. Philip's Church. Again, in 1781, the British burned any of the remaining structures. Following the war, a few families returned, and the town functioned as a minor port city. Brunswick Town, however, could never reestablish itself as a commercial success, and by 1830 was completely abandoned and the land sold to a local plantation. About 32 years later, Brunswick Town would come to life again, but not as a town, but as a military fort. In April 1861, the Confederates fired on Fort Sumter, and the American Civil War began. A month later, the state of North Carolina seceded and joined the Confederacy. Shortly thereafter, the Confederate government and the state government began building forts and batteries along the Cape Fear River to protect the port of Wilmington. Fort Anderson, an earthen fortification, was constructed in 1862, was part of the Cape Fear defense system. Armed with 12 32-pound cannons, Fort Anderson was the last defense on the Cape Fear. Fort Anderson was built across the ruins of Brunswick Town, and remains of the fort can still be seen today. On February 19, 1865, a month after the fall of Fort Fisher, the Union Navy began a severe bombardment of the fort, and the Union Army began an encircling movement. Realizing there was no hope, the Confederates abandoned Fort Anderson and moved north to Wilmington. Today, the site of Brunswick Town and Fort Anderson is administered by the state of North Carolina as a historical park. Thank you for watching. I'd appreciate it if you would hit the like button, give a comment, and if you have not subscribed to my channel, please do.